بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء نحوا سنقرئك فلا تنسى
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum, my beloved mu'mineen wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, as you can see, our session will be verses of law. That means verses of law which are in the Quran. We have given part 1 and part 2. So this will be time of fast, part 3. Time of fast, part 3. So this is in one of the series of our lessons. So lesson 26. Before we spoke about the fasting and the time of fasting. Today we are going to talk more specifically about Sweden in our city, because there's a lot of controversial and a lot of questions rising in this. So, and this concept which I'm going to talk applies to Trollhättan, which is our city, and the cities below Trollhättan. I don't know exactly whether it applies on the cities above Trollhättan. It might have a little bit variations and differences, but for sure, if it applies to Trollhättan, then Gothenburg is a little bit southern in south than Trollhättan, and then also Malmö and Kristianstad and Copenhagen, Denmark, Norway, some regions which are equivalent to Trollhättan and Gothenburg may also apply. The time of FAJR. It is fixed most of the year, like 16 degrees. I'm going to talk what's 16 degrees. When the sun is below the horizon, 16 degrees, and it's rising up, like it's down 90 degrees. So when the sun goes down, it starts to come back up. So when it reaches 16 degrees, that's the time of Fajr. But there, Muslims, they have different opinions as well. We are going to show you. So, but mostly this is not complicated, because the experts, they have measured the degrees. The other part is the summer in northern areas of the earth, northern hemisphere of the earth, where it is a very complicated issue. And from this session, you will realize that it is more complicated than it had sounded before. So therefore, we have in northern hemisphere, there are several experts and several scholars. They have made some assumptions, and based on that assumptions, they had made some timetables. So my session here is an academic criticism to those methods, because I'm going to support this academically, scientifically, plus with my observations, the observations which me and a group of youth did in Trollhättan. So those who would like to criticize my research, they are most welcome to do. I'll greatly appreciate that, and I'll honor that, because this is what I was able to reach to conclusions. And if you find out that there are problems in these conclusions academically, then please let me know. I will look into those, and perhaps things might help me to further modify if necessary. Otherwise, many people, they emotionally criticize, they emotionally, for non-academic purposes, they criticize, no, we want to have one timetable in Sweden. I can't accept that, because in reality, we can't have one timetable in Sweden. So that's not an academic thing. That's totally following certain politics, following certain emotional issues. No, Fulan has this timetable, we want to Fulan this, Fulan that. These does not go in. Islam is an academic religion and invites people to academic criticism and constructive criticism. So I am going to offer here constructive criticism to some of the methods which are available there, and I by myself am open to criticism. So this is basically what I'm going to do. So number one, I'm going to discuss a little bit about the normal Fajr, the twilight. Then I'm going to discuss about the odd, which is in summertime. And I'm going to present the arguments which have been presented, and I'm going to rebuttal those and support my rebuttal with my arguments, so it is more academic. And I respect all the timetables. And for example, this is based on my conclusion. And in Islam, if you know something for sure, you can't go against that. But for people who trust me, they can follow. People who trust other experts, they can follow them. So everybody can have their own satisfaction, and they would like to do precautions, they can do precautions. So this is not I'm imposing my work on others. If people are satisfied, they are most welcome to follow. If they have many further questions, they are free to send me messages or email me. And if they would like to follow some other timetables available, they are most welcome to do, as long as they have by themselves not done the research and they don't have any certainty. I have almost certainty to my work, so I can't go against my certainty, and I have strong confidence. But people might be satisfied in my work, might not be, it's okay. But for me, myself, I have what I do, I will have to follow this, and I can't go against. If I go against, then my salat will be invalid, and my fasting will become problematic. So let's start from the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines the criteria, that the criteria of Fajr is a visual observation. And no wonder people, they would say, why shouldn't we just follow the astronomical readings? Because the astronomers, they got confused in the guidelines defined by the Quran. Because we can't have one calculations for the entire earth. Even the regular days, ulamas and experts, they have differences. So that's why this thing people could not differ, which is defined in the Quran. That's one criteria. Applications might be different, but this criteria is one. Guys, look into the sky. Whenever you see the distinguishing of the white thread from the black thread, that means whiteness of the rising day from the darkness of the demising night or decreasing night. That's the line. If you see, your Fajr time enters, and your fasting time starts. Your fast starts. So what does Allah say? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This ayat is long. I have taken just this segment to support our session. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Eat and drink until the white thread, that means the whiteness of the day, is distinguished from the dark thread, that means the darkness of the night. So there is a kind of separation in the horizon. Min al-fajr, from the dawn, because this happens also when the sun sets. You have the dusk time. Also, there is a distinguishing time. But the Quran tells us to check the Fajr, the distinguishing colors in the Fajr, the darkness and the brightness in the Fajr time. ثُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Then complete your fast till night. We mentioned this previously in our previous session, the discussion about what is the night and how can we calculate the night. So I'm not going to discuss this. So we are going to have time of the fast, eat and drink until the white thread of dawn appears to you, distinct, obvious from its black. Twilights. Twilights are several times. First, I need to show you this. You can see this is the day. This is the west. This is sun. The sun is setting down. So there is a twilight. There's not the darkness of the night, and not the brightness of the day. So it's a mixture zone. And then the sun goes further down, then the night falls. The same thing. Just look at this red point. I don't know red point is clear or not. Okay. So the red point is sun. Sun is setting down, 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 down. It reached to a point of 90 degrees. If we bring that the tool which measures the degree, so this will be 90 degrees. From 90 degrees, that's the turning point of the sun. It starts rising back again, back again, back again. So from 90 degree, it goes to 80, 70, 60, until 20 degrees, and then 18 degrees, and then 16 degrees, which we said 16 degrees left from the sunrise, 18 degrees left from the sunrise. In Middle East, they take 18 degrees, in Africa also. But in Europe, the places which are above 45 degrees latitude, we take here 16 degrees. That's according to the experts who have observed here. And then finally the sun rises. So this is the area we are going to discuss. So there are several twilights. 18 degrees, they consider it astronomical twilight, which in many countries in the Middle East, even according to the office of Ayatollah Sistani in Iraq and Iran, they consider 18 degrees to be their Fajr, even in Africa. And some disagree with them, but most of the Maraja, they consider in Middle East 18 degrees. But here in Europe, Northern Europe, we have to take 16 degrees. And then we have nautical twilight, which is 12 degrees. That's not to our concern. And then we have civil twilight, when the road lights, they turn off, which is 6 degrees. So civil. Nautical is used for the people who are sailing in the ocean with their ships, and so this nautical twilight is beneficial for them. But for us, this one, 18 degree, is the one which we need to focus on, and 16 degrees for Europe. So the third twilight, known as civil twilight, is no use of us. It's mostly because of civil authorities decide to when the street and car headlights are no longer needed. Now when we look at this, I had to flip this to show the Fajr. So basically this is the sun setting. Sun goes 6 degrees, then 12 degrees, then 18 degrees. So our Sunni brothers, they pray Salatul Isha which is opposite to the Fajr in the Middle East. Opposite to the Fajr in the Middle East. And here is the Salatul Isha time for Sunni Muslims. But and then the sun keeps going down and down until it reaches 90. So it increases 6, 12, 18 until it reaches 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 degrees. Then it comes back to 80, 60 and 50 and all the way until it reaches 18 degrees. So this 18 degrees is Fajr in many countries and according to many experts. Again, this is not a fixed. There are some scholars, they disagree with this also. So even the normal Fajr, there is a disagreement and difference and variances among the experts based on the regions they have done. Then the sun rises. So here is 18. Now our problem in Sweden and Norway and Finland, we don't have 18 degrees in summer. We don't have 16 degrees. On 2nd May, the sun does not go below 16, as I'm going to show you. So 16 degrees max. So sun is going down, down, down. When it reaches, look at this light, red light, 16 degree. Then it goes like that, almost straight line, and then it starts to come back up. So the theory which I'm going to criticize, they have considered the sun goes like this at the midnight, astronomical midnight, it's the turning point and comes back up. So this is the like triangular. And that is what I'm going to rebuttal. It does not happen like that. As it is explained on YouTube by many of those supporters of this theory, that they consider the sun going like this, and there's this 12 hours after the midday. So let's say the sun is top, Dhuhr time, which is 1 hour or 1 o'clock. So that means you add 12 hours. You add 12 hours on the other side. So that will be 1 midnight. So this 1 midnight is an astronomical midnight. That means the time between the sunset and the sunrise. So they considered this Fajr. But after some time, we were arguing with some of them, discussing with them, that it's impossible, it's not applicable. So they added 30 minutes. So now if Dhuhr is 1 o'clock, then the Fajr will be 1:30. That also is not applicable in Trollhättan. So whoever prayed before, like 1 o'clock at night, Salatul Fajr, the Salat, according to me, according to my findings, definitely invalid. Even by unknowingly, they have to repeat their Salatul Fajr. So now also the 30 minutes in Trollhättan, even adding 30 minutes is not enough. So like now they say you add 12 hours and 30 minutes after the Dhuhr time. So this is Dhuhr time, midday. You add until the sun is on the opposite side. And that's your Fajr time. That means that's midnight. No way midnight is Fajr. Yes, maybe the more you go up north, the time between Fajr and midnight narrows and narrows and narrows, and then there is no night. So that's actually the midnight is your turning point. But as long as there is night, so there is a gap between midnight and Fajr. So even in this angular theory, you stay half an hour and come back, that is wrong. So they give like the sun goes like this, and then stays half an hour, and then comes back. Their concept has some kind of analogy. What is their analogy? They say when sun is coming down, 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 the light, the brightness of the sky is decreasing, 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 until it reaches the maximum point. When it reaches the maximum point, they say the reflection in the sky has also reached the maximum point. And then once it starts to turn back to its way up, then it affects the sky also. The brightness starts to increase. That's an analogy. To some point, theoretically, that analogy is okay, but practically it does not apply, as I'm going to show. So again, I'm going to repeat this and then I'm going to move on. So they say the sun goes down, 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 the brightness decreases, 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 until the sun reaches the maximum point, which is 12 degrees perhaps, or 16 degrees perhaps, and then it starts to rise up and it affects the brightness of the sky. So they added 30 minutes recently, before 2 years, but still that is not enough. As we can see, it depends on from season to season and from time to time, from city to city. We can't fix 12 and a half hours for the entire Sweden. That is totally incorrect according to the statistics which I'm going to show. And then it starts rising back again, so the brightness starts to increase. So the whole concept of the fatwa, maximum brightness, minimum brightness, and then once the brightness starts to increase, that is the Fajr, when we do not have a real Fajr. So let's look into this. In normal cases, the dawn is 18 degrees below the horizon before it rises in most of the Middle East and African countries. African, not Southern African, like East African, West Africa, like Tanzania. Because I know scholars in Tanzania, they said it has to be 18 degrees according to their following the Fajr observations. But in Northern Europe, in normal days of the year, according to the Leva Institute of Qom, Fajr happens when the sun is 16 degrees below the horizon. Okay, so now that 18 degrees or 16 degrees, you see the Muslims, this is about normal days. You see the Muslims, they differ. So let's see the variances. This according to the Muslim Pro app, they have kept Shia, Sunni, all their variations. So custom degree, according to Muslim Pro app, they choose 16 degree is the Fajr. Algerians, 18 degree, obviously Africa. This is in Turkey, an organization, Diniyat, 18 degrees. Egyptians, though they are in the same latitude of Algeria, but their experts, they found out in Egypt 19.5 degrees. That means the Fajr happens earlier there, like 10-15 minutes from Algeria. About 7, let's say 10 minutes earlier. Because 1 degree is about 6 to 8 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes, something like that. Egyptians, another organization, they have chosen 20 degrees. Wow. So 2 degrees, that means about 15 minutes easily, 10 to 15 minutes difference earlier. Then we have 19.5 for the Isha. As you can see, Isha and Fajr, they are opposite parallels. France, which is in Europe, which is our neighbors, an organization has defined 15 degrees, and we are following 16 degrees. Maybe northern France, because France is big in area. So from north to south. Southern, where they are close to Algeria and close to Spain, so you can see 18 degrees. We have Islamic University of Karachi, Middle East, 18 degrees. Then we have Malaysia, which is south, 20 degrees. And then we have Muslim Ulama Singapore, 20 degrees. Muslim World League, 18 degrees. And then we have some people in France, they chose to 12 degrees. Like some of the communities in Sweden, they have also chosen 12 to 14 degrees. Then we have North America, 15 degrees. This is Shia Nashri Jafri, 16, which is based on Liwa Institute in Qom. Then you see Makkah, 18.5, University of Tehran, 17.7. Even though University of Tehran and Qom, they're just side by side. But Liwa has somehow chosen 16 degrees. That means later than 10 minutes, about 10-15 minutes later than University of Tehran. And Qom, the office of Ayatollah Sistani for Iran and Iraq, they have chosen 18 degree. So see, in the same city, the Shias, office of Ayatollah Sistani and other Maraja, 18 degrees. University of Tehran, 17.7. So 18 is earlier than 17.7. And then Liwa, 16. So 16 so 16 is late. Then earlier is 17.7. So these Shias, they are in Iran, and they have their differences according to their expertise. So here is this situation. Now we are talking about the regular Fajr. This is regular days, and you saw how the Muslims, they have variances. The time concept is one, the whiteness. Now the groups, they start observing the whiteness of the day and the brightness of the day and darkness of the night. So when they start doing that kind of thing, here the differences happen. So here people, they follow the trustworthy organization and more satisfactory, because lay people, they can't go every day and check out. Though Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyidi Sistani Damadullah, he personally told me, when I told Ayatollah Sistani before coming to Sweden, Sayyidina, which should I follow? We have several. He said, you by yourself verify. تَتَحَقَّقُونَ بِأَنفُسِكُمْ تَحَرُّونَ الْفَجْرِ بِأَنفُسِكُمْ. So he mentioned repeatedly, you have to verify, you have to double check. You can't follow just the timetables available. So for me as a responsibility, I have to double check that which time is more applicable to Trollhättan, Sweden. So I'm just following the Marja's advice. And then Sayyidi Sistani and majority of the Maraja, they say, if you doubt that Fajr has risen or not, you can delay. You can take 16 just to be in the peace of mind. You don't have to take 18. You don't have to take 17.7. If you are doubting, take always the latest, which is 16, according to the experts of Liwa in Qum. So basically, this 16 degrees is like the farthest degree according to the majority of the experts. So you can pray easily after 16 degrees. But some might say, oh no, we checked 15 degrees. Then you follow your 15 degrees. Some might go further north, like northern Canada. The scholar there, they told me that further northern parts of Canada, they found out that Fajr, that light, the brightness, you see, is distinguished between 14 to 16. So this is somewhere 14 to 16. So they stop the fast when they are 16, they pray Fajr when they are 14. So this 16, 14. So as long as you pray Fajr late, you are okay. But if you have doubt, don't pray Fajr before the time. That definitely the Salat al-Fajr is invalid. According to the majority of the Maraja, Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid al-Khamenei, all majority of them, the top ones and the known ones, if you pray before the time, unknowingly, not intentionally, not deliberately, your Salat is invalid. As long as fasting, if you eat in the doubtful time, I don't know, did the Fajr come or not in 18, you are okay. You want to do precaution, you can do. That's a recommended precaution, not an obligatory precaution. Ayatollah al-Udma Sayyid Ali Sistani mentions clearly in his book of law that recommendation is precaution, recommended precaution. You don't have to abstain until you are definitive, certain about the entrance of the Fajr. That means the time you pray Salat, the beginning of the time of Salat, for sure you can't eat. But of course it's better since we have this 18, 16 kind of thing. So 15 minutes, like 16 and 18, 2 degrees, 15 minutes. So that's why they say do imsak before 15 minutes, just to add these 2 degrees of variances between 18 to 16. But before, don't pray Fajr. Because if you pray Fajr, according to my investigation, according to this what I have done and the statistics which I am going to provide you, your Salat is invalid. If you have prayed previously, before this time which I am going to mention, you need to do qada your Salat. So don't make those mistakes, and just do precaution. If you are doubting in my findings and other scholars' finding, see whose findings, make your Salat al-Fajr later. Pray based on that. Maybe somebody will say, okay, Sheikh, we are confused. You are Sheikh, he's Sheikh, that is Sheikh. I can understand that. You don't have to follow me. I'm not a marja' taqleed. But I have done my researches. If you are not satisfied, you are confused, then you can do precaution. Pray late. Don't pray before the time I have offered. So you can pray. As long as fasting, you can eat and drink until you can abstain from the time of the other scholars. Don't eat and drink. But for me, you can eat and drink until the time I have provided for imsak. Just stop that time. Because according to our findings, in the summer days, the Fajr comes out between 2 to 2:20 by observations. Between 2 o'clock to 2:20, somewhere. Somewhere we saw earlier, somewhere we saw later. So that's why we know for sure that the Fajr comes out after 2 o'clock. So before 2 o'clock you can eat and drink as much as you want. But after in Trollhättan, in our city, the more you go south, the more the night becomes bigger. Because the more you go north, the night becomes smaller. So you can eat and drink until 2 o'clock if you are in Trollhättan, 2:05. According to the abstaining time which I have mentioned in my timetable. In Trollhättan, in Sweden, Trollhättan and below, it's about 2.5 months of summer. The sun in the middle parts of Sweden, such as Trollhättan and Gothenburg, the sun does not go below or beyond 16 degrees. So we have to start checking the degree below 16 degree. That is, if we want to go astronomically, to rebuttal the angular concept. Therefore, the real Fajr ceases to exist, and other methods are required to define the beginning edge of the day. So we know first edge is the Fajr, next edge is the sunset. So there are 2 edges of the fasting day. So the day to pray the Fajr and begin the fast. In Trollhättan, in our city, you just double check your city. I'm going to show you how to check your city. The sun does not go below 16 degrees from the 2nd May to 11th August. So before 2nd May, we have 17 degrees. So the Fajr is 16 degrees. After 11th August, we have 17 degrees. So the Fajr is 16. But from 2nd and 11, the Fajr is not 16. The Fajr is whatever degrees below 16 if we calculate astronomically according to the concept of the light decreases and then increases back again. Based on that, if we look into the calculations, then we are going to check from the 2nd May to 11. Therefore, there is no real Fajr in this time. Fatwa of Ayatollah Sistani. Visual observation is necessary. As I said, he personally told me, it is mentioned by Sayyidi Sistani, one should not rely on the mere calculations or any timetables prepared without personal verification. In region, one exists. For every city might have their variances in such visual observation. So as experienced personally, Trollhättan has different readings than Stockholm and then Malmö. So calculations in the timing of the movement of the sun are helpful factors. However, these must be confirmed by visual sighting of the Fajr. The fatwa of Ayatollah Sistani. They ask Ayatollah Sistani. I'm going to read Arabic and English. نحن من مقلدي سماحة السيد. We are followers of سماحة السيد Ayatollah al-Udma Sayyid al-Sistani. It's on his website. I got this. You can go and check. مشكلتنا أننا نعيش في السويد. Our problem is that we are living in Sweden. وهذه الدولة فيها الليل جدا قصير. And this country has very short night in the summer في الصيف. وسوف يهل علينا شهر الرحمة والبركة. شهر رمضان المبارك. And the holy month of Ramadan is going to befall upon us. حيث لدينا مواقيت للصلاة. And we have several timetables for salat. وأوقاتها نعتمد عليها. And the times we depend are from the Imam Ali Center in Stockholm. من مركز الإمام علي في Stockholm. حيث يكون أول يوم للإفطار الساعة 10. So they are mentioning the time, and they are mentioning the problem is not in the time of iftar. The problem is in the time of Fajr, where they have decided it is 1 o'clock after midnight. That means after 12 o'clock. But it is actually astronomical midnight. So 1 o'clock Dhuhr, add 12 hours, 1 o'clock. Because nowadays the adhan is 1 o'clock, about 1 o'clock. So add 12 hours, 1 o'clock at night. But he says I feel that's too much earlier. This is a regular lay person. He's saying that I feel that it's earlier than it's supposed to be. Because many of the cities you see the sky, the stars are still there. That means it's still night. Ayatollah Sistani did not comment anything on Imam Ali's center. He did not say you must follow this timetable. He did not say you must not follow. No. He said, إِنَّ وَقْتَ الْإِمْسَاكِ شَرْعًا. The time of imsak religiously. هُوَ طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ. Rise of the dawn. وَتَحَرِّ وَقْتَ طُلُوعِهِ. Look at this sentence. And investigating the time of the rise of Fajr. في مكان سكن المكلف من وظيفته. In the place where the responsible person lives is his responsibility to find out. Therefore, فإذا أحرز وقتا محددا له. So if he verifies a specific time for him, that means you by yourself investigate, لم يجب عليه الإمساك قبله. Then he doesn't need to abstain from the invalidators of fasting before that time. Even if he had doubts that the Fajr might have risen, but these doubts are neglectable. Okay, these doubts are ignorable. You can neglect this doubt, you can ignore this doubt, and just eat and drink until you are assured about the rise of the Fajr. So you don't need to abstain as long as you are not sure that the Fajr has risen or not. Then Sayyidi Sistani in the same page on his website mentions the criteria. He says, if in your sky the brightness decreases slowly, gradually, after the disappearance of the sun. That means after the sunset, the brightness is disappearing. That means the sun is going down and down. And then after that, after a point, the brightness starts to increase back again. Even after 2 hours or 3 hours, that increase in the brightness is your first time of fasting. كان بدء ازدياده أول وقت الصيام. أول وقت الصيام, first time of your beginning of the timing, fast timing. وأما لو فرض, but let's say hypothetically, if there is no change in the brightness from the sunset till the sunrise, the whole sky is one colored. There is no darkness, no brightness changes. He says then based on the obligatory precaution, that means you don't have Fajr. You have to fast between the sunset, between the sunrise and the sunset. So, biraja al-matlubiyya, with the intention of hope of its requirement. But then you have to do qada. So why should I do fast and do qada? Okay, if some marja says you don't have to fast, you can refer to another marja. There are a few maraja. They say that if there is no fajr, then there is no fast. So you don't have to fast. You can do qada later on. So say this instance says precautionary fast from the sunset to the sun, from sunrise to sunset, and then do qada. And then he says one can also get rid of this precaution by moving to another country if it is possible, where there is a proper fajr. That means the brightness and the darkness increases and decreases. So then he does the fasting there, and he travels to do the fasting there. And then if not, if he can't do that, فَيُؤَدِّي صِيَامَ الشَّهْرِ الْفَضِيلِ أَوْ يُسَافِرْ فِيهِ, or he travels in that day. Every day he cuts 22 kilometers. So, and then later on he can do qada. Defining the increase. According to Ayatullah al-Uzma, one must be certain about the increase of the brightness visually. Okay? So you have to see, not too much depending on the calculations, because the calculations, there is always a variation between what's calculated and what's visualized by the eye. And before that, one is not required to observe precaution. So now we come to the final point, the Fajr in our summertime. In summertime, we mentioned that there are problems, and we mentioned there are two theories. One theory says the sun goes down, 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 and starts like this. Okay? So the sun is going down. The sun is going down, down. It reaches a point of angle, starts up. And this angle is opposite of midday. That means astronomical midnight. So this is your Fajr. Because why? The brightness is decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. Analogically, it fits okay in the mind. Analogically, there's a good analogy here. And then once it starts to rise, definitely assumption, hypothetically, the light starts to increase. This is hypothetically. It's proven not right. Hypothetically. So hypothetically, logically, of course, they use the word logic. Logically, the sun goes down, the brightness decreases. At the turning point, the brightness has to increase logically. This is an assumption. Practically, it's not like that. So this theory says then the sun goes back again in a triangular mode. The other theory is in a curve mode, which is the correct theory. So the sun comes down in a curve manner. So it comes down. This is the sun which is coming down in a curve manner, and then rises back again. So for this, I'm going to show you on this board what I meant, so that it becomes more clearer. So here, the first theory, they say the sun comes down, and then starts back again. So this turning point is like 12 hours after the midday, after the dhuhr. That means midnight, astronomical midnight. So they said the brightness decreases, and then it starts to increase, and that's logically. They found out by themselves there was error. The brightness does not start to increase. So they said, okay, then we say 12 hours and 30 minutes. So we add 30 minutes. So that means what will happen, that instead of angle, they made a flat line. So this is midnight, this is midnight, this is midnight, okay? Now what they did is, from the midnight, they increased 30 minutes, and then they go back up. For entire Sweden, that is wrong. You can't have this criteria for entire Sweden or Finland. No, you can't apply this criteria on all the cities. That is totally wrong. I'm saying it's very certainty, assurance, and confidence. That criteria is we can't apply this on Malmo. Maybe in Stockholm, maybe some places, yes, there is half an hour and then the sun starts, as we can see. But this, as we can show you on reliable calculations, it's not accurate. Some places it takes 1 hour, like in Trollhättan. Some places it might take 45 minutes. Some places it might take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The more you go north, the more this 30 minutes might go narrower, until when you go to north, then yes, your midnight is Fajr. But the more you go south, the gap between the midnight and the Fajr increases. The more you go south, the gap between the Fajr increases. So one needs to pay attention to this scientific concept. It's basic scientific astrophysics. So we can't ignore these facts, that the more you go up, the more the gap reduces between Fajr and midnight. At one point, yes, you can have Fajr midnight. But the more you go down, the more this gap. So somewhere this gap is 12.5 hours after midday. But it is not everywhere in Sweden. So that's why this theory is not correct for every place in Norway and Sweden and Finland and Denmark, or any places which have similar criteria. The thing I found out from the experts, it's not like that. So let's draw a line, which is the horizon line. Okay? So the sun sets down. It goes down, and comes. And let's say, like these days, it comes down and it stays on 15 degree. So this was 0 degree, this is 0 degree horizon. And then it goes down and down. And it goes along for quite time, and then it goes back to 14 degree. That's for sure is the sign where the brightness starts to increase. This time differs from place to place. It's not like curving. No, it stays on 15 degree for a quiet time. That means there will be darkness in the sky for a quiet time. And then once it starts to move to 14 degree, that's our Fajr according to Ayatollah Sistani, but that is astronomical Fajr. Your visual might be a little bit later than this. So you try to take where the 14 starts to go into 13 degree. So when 14 starts to go into 13 degree, that means for sure that is your time of the brightness. That is your time of the brightness. That means you have like one good gap of maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So you have this time, there is no brightness increasing. There is no astronomically no increasing. I'm talking about Trollhättan. and the city southern Trollhättan. There is no increase in brightness. Then when you start here, astronomically, hypothetically, assumption-wise, analogical-wise, logical-wise, yes. So now the sun moved from 15 to 14. So there must be a change in the sky. There must be. See, this is the hypothetical language. There must be. But no. Did you see it? Because the sunlight travels, this movement of the sunlight travels and comes to our atmosphere after about 9 minutes. So let's say if the timetables of astronomers are not taking this into consideration, we have to put at least this 9 minutes until it is visible for me. But today an astronomer confirmed that no, their calculations, the experts have added this factor. So what they have added, the timing, is what we see in the sky. But even though, I would put 10 minutes extra just as a precautionary, then pray Fajr. Even though they confirm that once on this turning point, you can pray Fajr. It goes like a concave curve. And this curve becomes flat for some time. That means there is darkness for some time. So the brightness decreases, there's darkness, and then the brightness starts to increase back again. So that's the point where we said it is about, in this example, from 15 to 14. Because 15 is the whole night. So I have to check what is below 15 in order to consider this Fajr. So, so these two things, so this is the theory. I'm going to now support my argument with it. Let's move on to the next slide. So, two methods. One, the triangular movement. Maybe it's curve movement, but it sounds like more like triangular movement, which is based on hypothetical triangular movement, like triangle, of the sun below the horizon, and has proven to be wrong academically and scientifically, moreover by our personal experiences in the city of Trollhättan, Sweden. The academic criticism will be presented here. Other theory is based on the real curved astronomical movement of the sun below the horizon, and according to the scientific calculations, besides our personal observation here in Trollhättan. So the scientific calculations support this curved movement, and also our experience and observation is very close to these findings. The first theory, the astronomical midnight is the time of dawn. They say, this is their claim, that is when the sun reaches the maximum point below the horizon and starts to rise, the turning point. It was assumed that the sun immediately rises from the turning point and affects, thus brightness of the horizon starts to increase immediately from that turning point. That is triangular movement. Thus, it was assumed that one should add 12 hours to the time of noon, midday, to get the time of Fajr, and that is astronomical midnight. Therefore, today, like today's day, the Dhuhr is 13.08. That means the Fajr is 1.08. This was the initial theory. But they found out that there was error. There was error. So according to our city of Trollhättan, as observed, the light increases after 2:15 a.m. like today, about that. Obvious pinpointing the exact time of increase of the brightness was not easy. We can't pinpoint. You see, suddenly there's darkness, and after 5 minutes, oh, the sky changed. When did this change? So there is a change happening range, which you can't pinpoint the exact change, the exact turning point. So that's why there's a range of precaution. So between 2:15 to 2:30, the brightness was increased. So between that range and not before that for sure. The observation was done by group and for various days for 3 years, and the results were almost same. This is in Trollhättan, what we did. Then the Stockholm Imam Ali Center, they realized also, the supporters of the first theory, that means the turning point midnight theory after 12 hours midday, and they made an adjustment of 12 hours to their 12 hours after the noon after the noon to 12 and a half, 12 hours and 30 for entire Scandinavian and Northern European regions where the real Fajr, where the real Fajr, 16 degrees, ceases to exist. This was their adjustment. And as I said, that adjustment cannot be fixed for entire Scandinavian or Northern European. This 30 minutes could be 50, could be 12, could be 15. It depends. The more north you go, you can have exactly 12 hours. The more south you go, you might end up into 2-3 hours extra. Like if you go to France or somewhere more south. According to the experts and our observations, such cannot be applicable to every region, especially when the movement of the sun is not triangular and it is almost curved movement, and the sun stays moving in one certain degree for a while before it starts its course to rise. The turning point differs from city to city. Now this link I have kept, you can go and check out by yourself. Put your city. That is www.timeanddate.com. Find the movement of the sun and put your date, month, year, and they will give you the whole list. And I'm going to show you how to check the movement of the sun below the horizon. It's a very amazing website. So one of the experts, I asked him about this website. Is this website reliable? According to the Lund, University of Lund Observatory expert, he says in response, I wanted to confirm, is this reliable or not? So his answer was this timeanddate.com. So he said, in response to, I can confirm that website that you refer to, timeanddate.com, is considered a reliable site. And its time for sunrise and sunset should be correct. So that means the movement of the sun and the timing of the movement of the sun and degrees of the sun, they are all reliable and correct. Because all these timings are due to the movement of the sun in its various degrees. However, you should not modify these values by 9 minutes or by any other number. The times given are those that we actually experience on the surface of the earth when the sunlight reaches us, and it also includes the effects of the bending of the light by air in the Earth's atmosphere. If hypothetically there would be no air on Earth, the times would actually be slightly different. With best regards. Now this is how it works. This is 19th May. The sun does not reach 17 degrees below the earth. Rather, it is at 12 degrees. So I'm going to show you practically, but just look at this. This is the sun. You can put your cursor or mouse on the sun and move it. It will move, and the time will change here, and the degree will also change here. So what is the time? 1 o'clock at night, 1:09. And the degree is 12. Okay? So that is kind of midnight. Then the sun moves. You can move the cursor, press on it and move, and you will see this time changes and the degree changes. So the moment you have, so this is night basically, 12 degree. So the moment you have 11, that's the beginning of the turning point. So it's 1 o'clock 15. So you can see that it is not, if you put 30 minutes, so it will become 1:39. But this is more. But this is the beginning. And we take the average of the turning point or the end time. And we said we rely on observation. So our observation was about 2 o'clock, after 2 o'clock. So it's very close to our observation. As I mentioned, we can't pinpoint accurately, but our observation were very close to this time. So therefore, the unusual astronomical Fajr would be 1.51. Astronomical. But Shar'i Fajr, the Shar'i Fajr is observation. So 1.51 on that day is the beginning. So it must come 2 o'clock, something like that, the end range. But then the observed is a little bit later. because these are very accurate movements and very fine movements. So the real change, we as our human normal eyes, which is our responsibility shar'an, religiously, happens a little bit later. So it is not exactly when this time, this is astronomical, as I said. And there's a difference between astronomical readings and real observation, because it's difficult to pinpoint the real observation. So at least you can sense that, yes, now the change, I can sense the change. Before half an hour, it was this dark. Now it is this brightness. So somehow in the middle, the change happened. Okay. So one more crazy thing we found out, that it's in a wave form of timing. As known to the people, the time decreases in summer and then rises at the end of summer. However, according to this website, and you will find out by yourself, you can find out, we end up into decreases and rises, decreases and increases in about every 5 days. So I'm going to show you on this board after a while. And that is due to each degree has its highest time of the turning point. And once then it decreases. And then when the Fajr takes the lesser degree, the time jumps back again to the higher time and starts to decrease. So it's a wavy, it's like a zigzag line, same degree and so on. So in average, every 4 to 5 days, it rises and falls in the time of Fajr, ending up into a wave or a zigzag form as it appears in the table. So as I mentioned, there's an entering point to a degree, entering time, and there's an exiting time to the degree. Each degree has a range of time. The time when the sun enters a particular degree and time when the sun exits the particular degree. As a precautionary measure, I've observed the point where the sun exists. I'm trying to keep it later, the more precaution, the more confirm. So my Salat al-Fajr is correct. That the degree where the light is supposed to rise. And I consider the time of entrance in that particular degree a time of assurance. So, and I consider the time of exit in that particular degree a time of assurance. I'm sure that now the sun is exiting that degree. So for sure, my Salat Fajr time is there due to our observation to the beginning of the brightness of the sky after it reaches the minimum brightness. These observations can differ from city to city and from personal satisfaction of each individual based on their observations. Okay, now we come to so the sun enters in 16 degree. So my timetable, as I said, that entrance and exit of the degree. So Liwa has kept an average, the average time between the entrance of the sun into 16 degree and exit of the sun into 16 degree. I have kept the exit as the time of Fajr and the entrance the time of Imsak. So for me, I have not taken average like Liwa has done. I want to make sure that when I enter 16 degree, I am not eating and drinking. And I want to make sure that before the 16 degree exits, I'm satisfied that I can pray my Salatul Fajr. So my timetable is based on, the entire year timetable is based on the entrance of the sun. 16 degree is Imsak, abstinence range, when the exit degree, before exiting 16 degree is the time of Salatul Fajr. But Liwa observes the mean average time of the range of both times, sun's entrance time and its exit. However, observing the precautionary measures, we have taken the time of entrance as Imsak, abstinence for fasting, and the time before the exit of the sun from 16 degree, the time of Salat, as explained below. This is for the regular days when the sun goes below 16 of the horizon after the sunset, and while rising reaches on 16 degree. I have not made this timetable, so as you can see, I'm going to make this timetable for this summer 2.5 months. So the degree, entrance time, exit time, and the average which Liwa has taken. So my entrance time is Imsak, stop eating and drinking. My exit time is pray Salatul Fajr now. So Liwa has taken this time, average time, 1 o'clock 50 minutes for the Fajr time. But I would like to delay my Fajr before the exit, because based on us, the observation visual observation happened around this time. So I would like to take the next time. So I'm using calculations, but I'm trying to check out which is very close to my observations, our observations in Trollhättan. So I would try to go with the exit time, and entrance time I would stop eating and drinking. So 25 minutes before this time, I will stop my eating and drinking, which in the past years, we had always kept 25 minutes time to abstain. However, if you doubt that Fajr doesn't enter in the entrance time, you still can eat and drink according to the fatwa of Ayatollah Sistani. But I would not eat and drink because it enters 16 degree. And 16 degree is Fajr time. So therefore, I will just pray after this time and stop eating and drinking in 1.37. Now I will show you what I meant here by the entrance time and exit time. The sun goes down, and now the sun is coming up. So the sun is now, it was in 17 degrees. The sun is now in 16 degrees. This is the entrance. Then, which was 1.37, correct? It stays like this. So just to go with our findings. So it is now 16 degree now, which is 1.37 at night. It stays, and then it goes up 2.12. So this is the exiting 16. So then it goes to 15 degrees. So Fajr is about, again I'm telling, astronomically, I am required visual. So astronomically, this Fajr enters, this is the turning point, 17 to 16, astronomical Fajr. But I don't know, I don't see the immediate whiteness. It's very slow and very gradual, especially there's almost a flat line of 16 degree. And then it moves turning point to 15 degree. So that means for sure this is my Fajr. For sure, astronomically. And by observation, that was around the time we saw the whiteness changed in the sky. So this is for sure. Because now the sky must have changed. The brightness must have changed. It can't be like all this time. And then so there was a brightness here, change of brightness from 17 to 16. And then our Fajr astronomical. And then here. So there has to be a change in the sky. And we observed that this time there was a change in the sky. As I said, we can't pinpoint. It's difficult. But then, now the same thing we are going to apply on the website, if you can look at the board. So this is like month of May. And as I said, you can move the cursor. Let's take today. So if you see all the way here, see the time changing and the degree changing. This is 15 degrees. Is it clear? And this is 12:06. And this is the sun which I'm going to move. When I move this, keep your eyes here as well. So I'm going to move now the sun. The sun is now 15 degrees. So now we entered 16. It's not going to go more than 16 because we have already, 2nd May we said does not go beyond. So it's, So now look, 16 is 16. What time it entered 15? 1:22. 1:22. Now this is the entrance. It's astronomical. But I need to see when does it exit. Okay, here it exits. 2.06, okay, which is according to the same time where we had observed between 2 to 2:15 to between 2:05 to 2:30, 2:15. It depends on different days, we saw different, but it was after 2 o'clock. So you can see the turning point 2:06. So 2:06 I can pray my Salat al-Fajr, but I have kept 2:30, putting precautionary measures that pray 2:30 you will be in peace of mind. Okay, so today we had this was the turning point. Yes. So it is 1:59. Correct? 1:59. 1:57. And then let's look at 7, which I need to show you the problem, the irony, the complication, as I mentioned, like a wavy. So it was 1:27. Now let's see how much is it. See, it stays for a long time. Yes. What's now? 150. So it's decreasing or increasing? Decreasing. 206, 159, 150. It's decreasing, correct? We are in summer. Every day you go in summer, it decreases. Now, but look at the problem here. Let's go to 8. What was that last one? 150. Let's see here. So we have 15 degree. So our Fajr will be 14. Okay? So the 14, end of 14. What's the time? 2:12. We had reached 1.50. Now we are back to 2:12. Remember, it rises every 4 or 5 days. It goes up and down, up and down. Let's check. So how much was this? Remember this. Remember this. 212. 212. Remember. Let's check on 9 what will happen. 203. Let's check on 10 what happens. 155. Is going down or not? And let's check on 11th what happens. We are in 14 degrees. 14 degrees every day it's coming down. 1.44. Let's check the 12. Check the 12. Let me just move down a little bit so that it's clearer. Let's check the 12. So the degree changed. We don't have 14 degrees anymore, correct? We have 14, but 14 is the maximum. So we have to go take 13 degree as our Fajr. Okay? So let's check the maximum 13. What's the time? It increased or not? And that's how it happens. So it's wavy. So as we can see, we had 16 degrees. So we had to take 15 degrees. 15 degrees, the time was about 2:10, the maximum time. It came down, it came down, it came down. It was 1.45. Okay, the Fajr. Then when we shifted to 14 degrees, it jumped back up to, let's say 12. I'm just hypothetically, I'm just giving you how it changes, zigzag. And then the 14 degree. So this was all 15 degree. Okay? So now we have 14 degrees. It came down 2.1 something, then 1.55, then 1.48, and then once it moved to 13 degrees, it jumped back again to 2.15. And then the 13 degree came down and down. So actually the timetables which tell us that the summer is nice, smooth, the time goes down, 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 and rises back. That's not the case when we don't have 16 degree. We have this zigzag line, like every 4 or 5 days, once the 15 degree becomes 14, the time shoots back to more than 2 o'clock. And that's why when we were going there daily, it was so confusing. We couldn't pinpoint exact time. Because sometimes we feel, no, it's earlier. Sometimes late. No, we said, no, we might have missed. But there was some kind of distinguishing of brightness. So that's why we see all the distinguishing of our readings were after 2 o'clock. You see? So that's why we have based our timetable based on visual, which is 2 o'clock. But to produce an astronomical Fajr for summer, it will be zigzag line. 2 o'clock, 1:55, 1:40, then again back to 2:10, 1:40, like that. It will be a zigzag patterns. So this is my argument for that theory, a stable time for entire Sweden, 12 and a half hours after midday is definite. It may be applicable for some places, some regions. According to my findings, it's definitely not applicable in the entire Scandinavian region, because as we said, even in one place we have this zigzag pattern. Even in Trollhättan, we can't just say one, like 12 hours and 30 minutes. It's a zigzag pattern. So we have to just keep a precautionary time that after 2:30 you just pray, after 2:20 you pray, and before 2 o'clock you just stop your fast, or 2:05 you just stop your fast. Still, that's a doubted time. But if you want to really follow the astronomical as a precautionary measure, then you can definitely pray on the maximum time you reach. We hope this was beneficial. As I mentioned, I'm open to criticism. You can criticize me by sending me email or message. And I might have missed some point, which you might have, but I refer to the expert in several experts. They confirmed this website in Sweden from University of Lund. They confirmed this website, which I have defended in my work. Then again, I did not rely on this. I relied more on my visual observations. But these tools were websites. These were helpful and useful in our conclusions. And as I said, you follow whatever you feel you are satisfied. At the end of the day, this is my assurance and certainty. But for you, it is one person, expert speaking, or depending on the words of expert, other person depending on the words of expert. So it's all, inshallah, Allah accepts a'mal of all those, as long as we are doing our best to follow whatever the rules are applied in our findings. So we pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring the holy month in peace, prosperity for all the mu'minat around the world. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.